For thousands of years, the pyramids have stood in silence, watching, waiting, remembering. We were told they were tombs, monuments of death built for forgotten kings. But what if that was never the truth? What if the real purpose of the pyramids was not to honor the dead, but to awaken the living? Each stone, a word. Each angle, a code. They were not built by slaves of stone, but by masters of knowledge. A message carved for the future, for the moment when humanity would be ready to understand. Tonight, that message speaks again. Welcome to the mystery that defies history itself. Welcome to the question that no one gives to ask. What was the true reason for the construction of the pyramids? This is not just another story about the past. It's a mirror of the present, and a warning for the future. Open your mind. Forget what you were taught. Because in this journey, the truth isn't written in books. It's written in stone. You are now entering the first revelation of our new series, Secret Stories and Hidden Facts. Subscribe, stay with us until the end, and prepare yourself, because from now on, the impossible will no longer be legend. The echo of the gods. The desert had its own voice, a whisper carried by the wind, echoing through endless dunes that shimmered beneath the merciless Egyptian sun. Amir walked slowly, his bare feet burning against the sand, his heart pounding with a mix of awe and confusion. He was not a builder, not a soldier. He was a scribe, chosen to record the birth of something no man could yet explain, a monument that would outlive empires. Before him, thousands of men hauled enormous stones, guided by overseers who seemed more like priests than engineers. Every movement, every command, every alignment of each block followed a rhythm, as if obeying an invisible score. It wasn't chaos, it was ritual. Amir's duty was simple: to write down the names of those who worked, the progress of the structure, the offerings to the gods. Yet every night, as the sun bled into the horizon and the stars began to pulse like the heartbeat of heaven, he would look upon that rising shape and feel something deeper, a calling. The pyramid grew like a living thing, and the closer it reached to the sky, the more Amir questioned why. One evening, as the workers rested and silence ruled the dunes, Amir approached the old architect, a man whose eyes held the weight of centuries. His name was Nefru, the silent guardian of the king's vision. "Master," Amir whispered, "we say this is a tomb for the pharaoh. But the stars say otherwise." Nefru didn't answer at first. He watched the night sky as if reading it like a book. Then he spoke quietly, his voice trembling with something ancient. "Do you see those stars, young one? The three that form a line?" "Orion," Amir replied. "Yes. And do you see how our pyramid follows their pattern? We are not building for the dead, Amir. We are aligning with eternity." Amir frowned. "But why, master? Why align stone with the heavens?" "Because," said Nefru, "stone endures what flesh forgets. When we speak to the gods, we do not use words. We use geometry. The pyramid is a message, one that only the sky can answer." That night, Amir could not sleep. His mind was consumed by the idea that what he was helping to build was not merely a monument, but a bridge. He began writing secret notes, drawings of angles, symbols of the stars, thoughts that felt more like revelations than records. He described the strange hum that sometimes came from the pyramid when the wind hit the stones at the right angle. He felt vibrations beneath the ground, as if the earth itself was resonating with the structure. Weeks passed, then years. The pyramid rose higher, cutting through the horizon like a stairway of light. Amir's faith deepened, but so did his unease. He saw men collapse, consumed by exhaustion, and others stare at the structure in trance, whispering prayers to unseen forces. On the final day of completion, the pharaoh himself came to witness the last stone being placed. As the sun reached its zenith, a beam of light struck the apex of the pyramid, and for a brief moment, the entire structure glowed. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the sand, through Amir's bones, through his very soul. The crowd fell silent. Even the wind stopped. Amir felt tears in his eyes. He didn't know if he was witnessing the power of the gods, or the awakening of something far greater, the human spirit realizing its divine potential. That night, he wrote his final entry in his secret journal. This is not a tomb. It is a code, a reflection of the heavens and of ourselves. Whoever understands the pyramid will understand their own creation. When Amir died years later, his journal was buried with him, sealed away by sand and time. But the echo of his revelation, the whisper of the gods, still lingers in the desert winds. The pyramid still stands, not as a relic of death, but as the first monument of consciousness. A reminder that maybe, just maybe, humanity once remembered how to speak the language of the stars. Chapter 2: The Secret Language of Stone. Centuries passed. The sands shifted, kingdoms fell, and languages faded into dust. But the pyramids remained, untouched by time, colossal, silent, and unyielding. For ages, they were believed to be tombs, magnificent graves built for kings who desired to live forever. Yet, those who looked closer began to sense something deeper, a pattern hidden within the very bones of the earth. Modern eyes saw only blocks of limestone. But for those who dared to measure, to calculate, and to align, the stones began to speak. Each angle, each proportion, each line seemed to follow a divine rhythm. The height of the Great Pyramid, multiplied by a specific constant, revealed the distance between the Earth and the Sun. Its base circumference matched the time it takes for the Earth to complete a single rotation. And its alignment, almost perfectly true to the celestial north, was so precise that even our most advanced instruments today barely surpass it. How could something built more than 4,000 years ago contain knowledge we only rediscovered millennia later? It's not architecture, said one modern researcher. It's communication. A language carved not in words, but in proportion, frequency, and vibration. Amir's forgotten diary, if it had ever been found, might have confirmed it. The ancients were not merely building monuments, they were translating the universe into stone. To the Egyptians, stone was eternal. It could outlast flesh, outlast words, even outlast the memory of gods. So they wrote their greatest truths into it, using shape, not ink. The pyramid's 4 sides were not random. They represented the 4 elements of creation. The base, earth, solid and unmovable. The slope, fire, rising in transformation. The point, air, where the spirit ascends. And within, deep in the dark chamber, water, the essence of life and reflection. Each component mirrored the balance of the universe, as if the structure itself was designed to resonate with the frequencies of existence. Some researchers noticed that when the wind moved through the inner corridors, the air produced a faint harmonic tone, like a chant. Others measured electromagnetic fields around the apex and found them slightly higher than the desert baseline. Coincidence? Or design? The stones do not lie, wrote one scholar. They hum. But the real mystery lies not only in what the pyramid is, but how it was made. Blocks weighing more than 100 tons were placed with microscopic precision, so tight that a single hair cannot pass between them. No chisel marks. No mortar. Just perfect alignment, as if the builders understood the weight of light itself. Ancient legends tell that the priests of Heliopolis knew how to command matter through sound. That they used frequencies, chants, and resonance to lift stones, a forgotten science of vibration. If true, the pyramid becomes not a construction site, but a laboratory of consciousness, a place where geometry, sound, and spirit were fused into one living equation. In one ancient carving, hidden within a temple wall, a line of hieroglyphs whispers something extraordinary. To raise stone, we did not fight against the earth. We sang with it. Could it be that the true builders of the pyramids didn't conquer nature, they collaborated with it? That they understood harmony so deeply they could move mountains without violence? The deeper you study the Great Pyramid, the less it feels like a tomb and the more it feels like a message, one the ancients left for a future civilization capable of decoding it. Not a message of words, but of frequency. Not a warning, but a memory. As above, so below. As within, so without. That was the principle guiding the ancients, the belief that the universe outside mirrors the universe within. The pyramid was both a map of the cosmos and a reflection of the soul. In the silence of the desert, under the eternal stars, the Great Pyramid still vibrates, not as stone, but as sound frozen in form. A monument that speaks without voice, reminding us that knowledge, once written in harmony, never truly dies. And perhaps, the moment humanity rediscovers how to hear the language of stone, it will also rediscover the forgotten language of itself. Chapter 3: The Code of Immortality. The ancients did not build for the present. They built for eternity. To them, the body was only a vessel, fragile, temporary, destined to return to the dust. But the soul, they believed, was eternal. It could travel, remember, ascend. The pyramid, therefore, was not a monument of death. It was a machine of rebirth, a cosmic device meant to guide the soul beyond the limits of the flesh. Inside its dark corridors, geometry met spirituality. The angles, the chambers, the narrow tunnels, all served a purpose that few dared to imagine. Each passage aligned not only with the stars above, but with the energy centers of the human body. The Great Pyramid was not just a structure, it was a map of consciousness. Ancient texts describe a ritual known as the Journey of Light. Priests would prepare the pharaoh's body, but more importantly, they would prepare his mind. For them, death was not an ending, it was a transformation, a passage into the higher frequency of existence. The initiation began in darkness. The initiate entered the lower chamber, symbolizing the material world, the realm of the body and illusion. In that suffocating silence, he would confront fear, desire, and the weight of mortality. It was the descent into the underworld, not beneath the earth, but within the self. Then, guided by priests chanting ancient tones, he would ascend through the narrow corridors, each one representing a stage of awakening. The sounds echoed against the stone walls, creating vibrations that interacted with the body, deep frequencies that altered perception and consciousness. At the center of the pyramid, the queen's chamber, the initiate would confront the reflection of his own essence. It was said that within those walls, he would feel the separation between mind and matter, the veil between the human and the divine. Finally, at the top, within the king's chamber, came the ultimate revelation, the union of light and form. Surrounded by perfect proportions and timeless silence, the initiate would lie within the stone sarcophagus, not as a corpse, but as a consciousness being reborn. The body sleeps, the priest would whisper, but the soul awakens. Modern scientists who have studied the chamber's acoustics discovered something remarkable. The dimensions resonate at a specific frequency of 432 Hz, a vibration long associated with harmony, healing, and universal balance. Coincidence? Or knowledge deliberately encoded by the builders? When sound was played within the chamber, the walls themselves sang, creating standing waves that amplified energy. Some claimed that those vibrations could alter brain states, inducing deep meditative or transcendent experiences. Was this an ancient form of spiritual technology, a bridge between physics and consciousness? If so, the Great Pyramid was not built to contain the dead, but to liberate the living. Every layer of the pyramid symbolized an aspect of the human journey. The base, representing the physical body, heavy, grounded, limited. The middle levels, the emotional and mental awakening, the discovery of self. The apex, the moment of enlightenment, where matter dissolves into spirit. It was a teaching, hidden in stone. To rise through the pyramid was to rise within yourself. He who masters the pyramid, wrote one forgotten priest, masters his own resurrection. When the ancients spoke of immortality, they did not mean endless life in flesh. They meant endless awareness, the realization that consciousness cannot die because it was never born. The pyramid was not meant to preserve the pharaoh's body, but to remind humanity that divinity was never outside, it was within. That is the true code of immortality. Not living forever, but understanding that what we are already does. And so, the stones still whisper their secret to those who listen. The key to eternity is not hidden in the heavens, but buried in the silence of your own mind. You were never meant to worship the gods, the echo says. You were meant to remember that you are one of them. Chapter 4. The Secret That Survived Time. The wind never forgets. It carries whispers across centuries, voices of those who once knew the truth. When the empires fell, when the gods were replaced, when the world forgot its own origin, the pyramids remained. They stood as silent witnesses to a knowledge that refused to die, a secret buried not only beneath the sands of Egypt, but beneath the memory of humankind itself. The ancients vanished, yet their message endured in stone. Because stone does not argue, stone does not lie. It simply waits for the right eyes to see again. When archaeologists first entered the Great Pyramid in modern times, they expected relics, gold, mummies, inscriptions. They found none. No body, no treasure, no evidence of a tomb. Just silence. A silence so profound it seemed to hum. That emptiness, that deliberate absence, spoke louder than any artifact. It was as if the builders had removed everything that could be seen, so the world would be forced to look deeper. What they left behind was not a body, but a frequency. Over the years, a few daring minds began to suspect the impossible, that the pyramids were never meant to store death, but to generate life. Some scientists discovered traces of unusual electromagnetic fields around the apex. Others noted that objects left inside for long periods seemed to remain preserved, organic matter decaying slower than expected, blades staying sharper, seeds germinating faster. Coincidence? Or the residue of a technology older than recorded history, a science based not on metal and machines, but on energy and harmony. We are surrounded by power we no longer understand, wrote one researcher in 1933. The pyramid is a conductor, not of electricity, but of consciousness itself. Legend tells of priests who could heal with light, of chambers that could rejuvenate the sick, of knowledge shared between worlds, the earth and the stars. Some say the architects of the pyramids were guided by beings from the sky. Others believe they were simply humans who had awakened to a level of awareness we can barely comprehend. Humans who understood the earth as a living organism and geometry as the key to communicate with it. Maybe the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe those who built the pyramids became the beings we now call gods. Because to master energy, vibration, and frequency is to master the very code of creation itself. When the last high priest of the old world felt death approaching, he is said to have written a prophecy, one that has never been found, but whose words are still echoed in ancient myths. When the stars return to their place, and man looks again to the heavens not for gods, but for truth, the stones will speak once more. Those words were not a warning, they were a promise. A promise that the memory of who we once were would never vanish completely, only sleep beneath layers of sand and disbelief. Today, as technology advances and humanity peers once again into the heart of matter, we are beginning to rediscover what the ancients already knew. That energy responds to consciousness. That thought shapes reality. That geometry is the blueprint of creation. What we call modern science may simply be the long path back to something forgotten, a truth that has survived in silence for thousands of years. And there, beneath the burning sun, the pyramids continue to stand. Not as relics of the past, but as mirrors of the future. Perhaps they were never monuments at all, whispers the desert wind. Perhaps they were instructions. Because when you align stone with star, and sound with soul, you are not building a monument. You are awakening a frequency that cannot be buried, cannot be destroyed, and cannot be forgotten. The secret has survived because it was never outside of us. It was always inside, waiting for humanity to remember what it truly is. Chapter 5. the invisible legacy of the pyramids. They have watched us for more than 4,000 years. While empires rose and crumbled, while new gods replaced the old, while the human heart forgot its own origins, the pyramids remained. Silent, patient, eternal. They do not speak in words. They speak in presence, a stillness so powerful that even time dares not touch it. Every traveler who stands before them feels it, that strange pull, that inexplicable silence in the soul. It is not fear, not awe, it is recognition. A memory awakening. Because the true legacy of the pyramids was never written in history. It was written in us. Some say they were built to reach the stars. Others, to honor the dead. But perhaps the greatest secret is this: they were built to remind the living. Every line, every proportion, every hidden chamber was designed not to glorify kings, but to reflect the divine geometry of the human spirit. The pyramid is the oldest mirror, a reflection of the universe and of you. At its base lies the material world, the realm of chaos, desire, and survival. As one rises toward the apex, the shape narrows, symbolizing the journey inward, the stripping away of illusion, the climb toward clarity. And at the summit, where the four sides meet, everything becomes one. That is the invisible legacy, unity. The understanding that everything, from the smallest grain of sand to the brightest star, is part of the same equation. The pyramid was never a monument to power, says the voice of the desert. It was a monument to remembrance. Amir, the young scribe who once wrote by torchlight, believed that one day the world would remember the message hidden in the stones. That humanity would once again see what the ancients saw, that the path to the divine does not lead upward, but inward. And maybe, just maybe, he was right. Today, in laboratories and meditation halls, through quantum theories and spiritual awakening, we are rediscovering what they encoded so long ago. That consciousness shapes reality. That thought is energy. That to know yourself is to know the universe. The pyramids stand not as relics of a forgotten past, but as reminders of a potential that never died. Walk around them, and you feel small. Stand beneath them, and you feel eternal. That paradox is the secret they were built to teach. That humanity is both the dust and the divine. That we are not the slaves of matter, but the architects of meaning. Every civilization that came after tried to imitate their form. Towers, temples, cathedrals, all reaching for the sky, but none carried the same vibration. Because the power of the pyramids was never in their size, but in their intention. They were not built to dominate the heavens. They were built to reflect them. So, what was the true purpose of the pyramids? Perhaps it was never to answer questions, but to provoke them. To remind humanity that the search for truth is the search for self. Because the greatest pyramid is not made of stone. It stands within every human being, invisible, sacred, waiting to be awakened. And when we begin to build it, not with our hands, but with our awareness, the legacy of the ancients finally lives again. The pyramid within you, whispers the wind, is the bridge between heaven and earth. As the last light fades over the horizon, the great silhouettes rest beneath the stars. They do not seek worship. They do not seek understanding. They simply exist, reminders carved in eternity that the divine has always been human, and that the human has always been divine. That is the invisible legacy of the pyramids. Conclusion: the awakening of the ancient code. The desert sleeps beneath the same stars that once guided the builders. The winds still whisper through the sand, carrying fragments of forgotten prayers, echoes from a civilization that understood something we are only beginning to remember. The pyramids were never simply built. They were transmitted, born from knowledge that transcended language and time. Knowledge of energy, of vibration, of consciousness itself. We thought we were studying stones. But the stones were studying us. Every century, humanity comes closer to what the ancients already knew. That the laws of the universe are not separate from the laws of the soul. That creation begins not with tools, but with thought. And perhaps that is the final message of the pyramids. A message not written in hieroglyphs, but in harmony. Remember who you are. Remember what you can build when you remember. As the camera rises over the endless sands, the golden light of dawn touches the ancient walls. For a moment, it feels as if the pyramids breathe again, alive, aware, eternal. Because they were never monuments to the dead. They were messages to the future. To us, the true mystery was never buried beneath the stones. It was always inside the human spirit, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And now, perhaps, that moment has come. The truth is not hidden. It is waiting for those who dare to look deeper. Join us in our new series, Secret Stories and Hidden Facts. Subscribe, stay curious, and prepare to uncover the mysteries that time tried to erase. Because some secrets were never meant to stay buried.